joined alongside criminal defense attorney Brian Silber and criminal defense attorney Casey Early. Welcome, guys. Thank you so much for joining me. Brian, I'm going to start with you. You just heard Shannon Gray there talk about, the victim's roommate there. What are your thoughts on her encountering the killer and waiting so long to react?
So a couple things come to mind. I think it comes down to two possibilities. First of all, she had a bone-chilling encounter with this guy. I mean, just think, you're a homeowner, you're in your house. Everyone's worst nightmare is some guy is in their home at 3, 4 o'clock in the morning who doesn't belong there. I mean, if there's ever a case for the Second Amendment, I think this is it, right? However, the other side to it is 8 hours does seem like a rather long period of time to call the police after 4 of your roommates have just been slashed to death. It definitely raises a legitimate question. I don't think there's anything wrong with asking a question. You know, certainly when an arrest has been made and someone is looking at the death penalty for their actions in regard to this case, I think the tough questions do have to be asked and the tough questions do have to be answered. But it can be done without putting blame. It can be done without pointing a finger. But certainly, I'm sure the defense team will want to know, why was there an 8-hour gap? I mean, the normal reaction would be to immediately call the police. Now, I understand someone might be scared, they might be in fear, of course, but 8 hours is a very long time. And the question that comes to my mind that I would like to know is, how did this guy make entry into the home? Did he break in, or was he not? Was he able to make access without breaking in? And I think that's another thing that needs to be looked at.
Well, Brian, could we expect more evidence to be revealed in this case?
Absolutely. You know, remember, a probable cause affidavit serves one legal function, and that's to justify an arrest. All the police need to do is put enough into an affidavit that establishes that the person they put into handcuffs and have taken into custody, that there's evidence behind that arrest. But it doesn't need to be an Encyclopedia Britannica of evidence. And certainly I can tell you, this is an ongoing investigation. You know, I'm sure a lot of people are going to come forward now that they know this gentleman has been arrested and charged with this crime. They might have additional information. There might be other information that is being analyzed. For instance, they might have forensic evidence that is being reviewed in a certain laboratory. But absolutely, and by the way, that's what trial is for. Trial is the moment where it's all laid out there. And I think as we get closer to trial, and certainly once we get into a trial posture, the big picture and everything that there is to be known about this case will likely be brought out.
Brian, were you surprised when you heard that he could have been at that vigil? Is this something that alleged killers do?
So I would say I was surprised and I was not surprised. On the one hand, it's not uncommon for offenders who offend out of a major mental health problem, as would be the case here, to return to the scene of the crime. You know, you hear of that with arsonists, you hear that with other offenders. I'm not a psychotherapist, I couldn't explain it to you, but it's definitely a behavior pattern that has been seen before. But of course, naturally, it also surprises me, because you would think that's not the intelligent thing for someone to do after they've just murdered the person who is the subject of that memorial. But then again, you know, someone who has a sociopathic personality, as the true offender would be in this case, that person's brain does not perceive and interact with reality like a normal, healthy person. That's why they do what they do. So to expect normal behavior out of an abnormal person, to me, really doesn't make much sense. But, you know, it's yet to be seen if that actually was him. I happened to review the photo, and I think the verdict is still out. I see the semblance. It certainly has to do with the posture and the shape of his head. I thought maybe the hairline was a little different. But ultimately, at the end of the day, it doesn't move the needle forward when it comes to the evidence that's needed for conviction. I certainly think there's more important issues to be focusing our attention on. But it's a good thing the public is this involved. The more involved the public is, the better our judicial system functions.
And I think moving ahead, people also want to see if there are more people who are involved in this case as well.